Here's just a brief example of a class time breakdown in a traditional classroom versus a flipped classroom. As you can see, in a traditional classroom, a big chunk of time is dedicated to lecturing new content. 30 to 45 minutes. Wow, that's a huge part of class. And I've really enjoyed trying to use these flipped video lectures because I think it's given us in our class a lot more time to really apply and to engage and to discuss as opposed to simply me talking and some of you all falling asleep with glazed eyeballs. So in a flipped classroom, the biggest difference is there's often a question and answer time. So the instructor will sort of open the floor for students to present any questions that they have on something that they are confused about. And then a huge chunk of the time, 75 minutes, is dedicated to some kind of guided or independent practice or lab activity. This was taken from a scholarly text about a chemistry course, but the same principles can be applied to foreign language learning or almost any other subject, really. I've even heard of PE teachers that have used flipped learning to get students more up to speed on how to perform a particular activity or how to play a particular game. One really great aspect, I think, of flipped learning is that it really changes the role of the instructor in the classroom. So, in a more traditional classroom, the teacher often takes on the role of a lecturer or an instructor. They are responsible for delivering that content during class time and for students to take notes. Like I said before, like an instructor is pouring water into the buckets that is students' minds. However, when we try to flip the learning a little bit, the teacher tends to take on more of the role of a facilitator. And in this case, the teacher is not really there to give direct instruction, but to help guide the students with the questions that they have, with any confusions, and to try and help students take command of their own learning. In this case, a lot of times students will work in small groups to gain instruction, and it gives students more choice, more autonomy, more feeling of responsibility and power over their own learning. So, based on a lot of the research that I've read about flipped learning, there are a lot of possible benefits that could come from integrating some flipped lessons into your class. One is the pause button. Because the students can watch lectures or video materials on their own time, they have the power to pause and rewind their teacher. That is how one high school student once put it. She can pause and rewind her teacher whenever she's unsure about something or perhaps needs to listen to something a little bit more slowly. While maybe higher level or more academically inclined students can actually watch videos at 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed and save time. So, and this really allows students to absorb new material at their own pace. Super students, even though it might take time for students to absorb the new processes of flipped learning, I think that it really gives students a lot more autonomy and agency over their learning. They are really responsible for absorbing the material and being able to apply that material in class. So I think it gives students a lot more ownership over their learning. Also, I think it gives a lot more opportunities for one-on-one instruction from a teacher. So while students can all be working on different tasks during an in-class time, the instructor can really give a lot more specific and targeted help towards students who really need it. And it allows for a lot more differentiation of instruction because rather than trying to deliver the same content over the span of a lecture, the teacher can give very specific points or tidbits to students who have very specific questions. And finally, I think that flipped learning opens up a better question and answer dialogue between the teacher and the student. So students might have a little bit less confusion, or they might have what I like to consider a desirable difficulty. They might see some parts of the lecture material that they find really challenging. And so rather than coming to class tired or with zero direction or idea, they come to class with a question. They come to class with something ready to work on, some way to expand their learning. They are more prepared.